What's up, and welcome to episode 2 of the Grindline podcast.
This is episode
Tyler
3.
here. I thought it was episode 2. Okay,
No, it's 3.
Well, then we're restarting that then. All right. What's up, and welcome to episode 3 of the Grindline podcast. This is Tyler here alongside Greg and Ryan. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm drinking an old fashioned, so right now I'm doing pretty good.
I'm doing
Greg,
great.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm just recovering from recovering in order to get ready for tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah.
4th of July tomorrow.
America.
It's a beautiful thing. So we had some things happen over the weekend. Development camp, which Greg was he was down there at the Belfour Training Center.
The Belfour Training Center.
So Greg's gonna start us off with that, and we'll go right into it.
Yeah, so I was at the scrimmage game on Saturday at the Belfour. So you might have seen some pictures of me on the internet. I was in a corner, and I think the Red Wings put out a picture right before the third period, and I was spied in the corner of the picture there. I also got some pretty sweet shots. I got Dylan Cholowski's attention and got him to look at me for a picture, and it was pretty cool.
Dennis Cholowski, yeah.
Whatever. We're gone today. We're already on vacation.
Ty Domi, right?
Yeah, Ty Domi. So yeah, I got Dennis Cholowski to look at me for a picture, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it was a good time down there. That place is freezing. There is no heat. And it is literally I wore shorts because it was 100 degrees outside. We get down there and it's 40 in that building. So to kind of quickly recap on it.
Greg, it's a hockey rink.
Of course. Yeah, I know. It was just still freezing cold. That's why you can't have hockey in summer, because you got to wear shorts outside, but you come inside and freeze your ass off. So I was down there. I saw Filip Zadina and Michael Rasmussen play. Of course, they are both NHL ready, flying down the ice. Rasmussen is head and shoulders above everyone but Malte Setkov, who also looked phenomenal. He just needs to put on some weight. But they're about the same height, and you can tell because everyone else looks like they are 3 feet shorter than them. Zadina had a shootout goal that was just beautiful. You can find that clip online. He had the overtime game-winning goal on assist from Rasmussen 16 seconds into overtime, which was also beautiful. But we knew they were going to stand out. But like I said, Malte Setkov looks really good. He made some awesome passes. He was the third person in that overtime period he passed to Rasmussen. Rasmussen passed to Zadina, and Zadina scored. The other person that looked really impressive from both a play standpoint and a personality standpoint was Givani Smith. He played on that line with Zadina and Rasmussen as the third forward. And great passes, super physical. The dude's huge. He knocked a couple people on their asses. And he's just funny. He's got a personality. At one point, he was going and he slid back to the bench. And he's a funny guy, and he did the lay down like Burt Reynolds pose for the team picture at the end.
You need players like that.
Yeah, and people say, well, do you think he could make the team as a fourth liner? And I said, the way he's looking and the way he played in Kitchener at the end of last season, I think he could make the team as a third line center. So he'll play in Grand Rapids. Holland said he'll play in Grand Rapids. His goal is to still make the Red Wings, but he'll most likely start the season in Grand Rapids and get called up during the season. Other than that, our 7th round draft pick, Otto Kevin Maki, the kid is insane. He is listed in camp. He was listed at 157 pounds, which I think that was a little generous. He probably is about 140, and he's 5'9", 5'10". So he's short, but he flies. He's got hands for days. He scored a goal. He was deking people out. He can just get bumped off the puck a little easy. So I think if he pans out, he gains a little weight, I think he'll be a steal for a 7th round pick.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even Draper, they were talking about him. I forget which intermission it was because I was watching the stream of it. They were impressed by the skill that he was showing, and they also were joking about his weight because none of them actually knew how much he weighed. or they had like a 20-pound fluctuation between what they were talking about, and they were just joking about it. But he looked really good, and I liked one guy I'm surprised he didn't mention was Berggren.
I was about to.
Oh, that late first round pick. Ooh, that's what I'm considering, anyways.
Yeah, Berggren was great, and so I mean, Joe Veleno could also step onto the Red Wings tomorrow and play. He was by far the smartest player that I saw out there. Amazing passer. He had in the final minutes a backwards between the legs pass to get the puck to the front of the net, and it's just filthy. But I think Joe Veleno could step right into a lineup too. David Pope was excellent. He can shoot the puck. He had a goal too. I think he'll spend a year in Grand Rapids, and if injuries or trades come up, he'll come up to the club too. So I came out of that game super hopeful because it looked really good. The talent I saw on the ice looked excellent.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm glad I got to watch most of it via the stream. Everyone you named. I mean, after seeing some of the tweets tonight about people bitching about the Holland rebuild, it's not all gloom and doom based off how that looked. And I think Krupa made the comment about how things looked, and it's much different from years past at the development camp. And I feel really good about that. I think everyone else should feel really good about that. Granted, it's going to be huge about what Holland does over these next couple of years for how much they have fallen off in regards to bad contracts. But a lot of these guys could be making an impact in Grand Rapids and likely Detroit here probably 3-4 years max. And that's got me pretty excited. And some obviously much sooner.
Yeah, the kids themselves even said it feels much different, and that they feel like they can make the team, like there's a chance that all the spots are open and they just have to push for them, which is good. And I think that has a lot to do, honestly, with Draper and with Sean Horkoff, who push for development, who push for the kids to come on, who push for new technology. And I think Holland needs to sit back and say, hey, maybe they're right, and maybe we need to start listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's our good, quick Dev Camp recap. If you guys have any questions, you can give them to us on Twitter. I'll answer them. I'm the one generally running the Grindlines Twitter account most of the time. So if you want to send your development camp questions, specific prospects, I can give you the lowdown on that. But I will let Tyler start the next subject, which we are going to recap what the Red Wings did in free agency. As you know, we got Thomas Vanek, Mike Green, and Bernier as a backup goalie. So Tyler, go ahead.
So you want me to just go into the signings and everything like that?
Yeah, man. How do you feel?
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, at first I was kind of pissed, but then I started to digest it a little bit more, and it makes more sense the more that I think about it, because if you start just throwing kids into situations that they're not comfortable in, number one, you're going to ruin them, and number two, you're going to have to send them back down, and it's just not good. When you have a player on the team and they're not ready, to send them back down kills their confidence. So a stopgap like Thomas Vanek, a 1-year deal at what was it, $4 million? What was it exactly? Yeah, $3 million. Okay, so that's a steal. You might end up, if he does waive his no trade clause, you might be able to move him at the deadline. Now he's been moved at 3 straight deadlines, so it's going to be tough to convince him to leave. He's probably just coming and hoping he can help the kids grow. Mike Green, I mean, I like the deal. I kind of 5.375 is kind of a lot, but I mean, it's only 2 years, and he also apparently has a no trade clause as well. But I mean, if we're not going anywhere at the deadline, I can't imagine that he would say no to a trade to a contender. So
yeah,
I don't think that happens this year though for him.
No, yeah, maybe next year.
Let's focus on that real quick for a minute, though. A no trade clause does not mean you can't be traded.
Yes.
There's a big difference between a no trade clause and a no move clause.
Right.
A no trade clause just means you have control over whether you get traded or not. If you're on a shit team, wouldn't you want to be traded? If you're on a shit team and say Tampa's in the final next year and Tampa says, we want you on our team, we're sure we can win a Stanley Cup, wouldn't you waive your no trade to go to Tampa? Like a
I'm
no
sure
trade.
I'm sure there's 5 or 6 teams that he would waive his no trade clause to go to. Now,
Exactly.
He did it this past season already too. That's the other thing. I mean, he's done it once, however, but he still decided to come back, knowing the situation that they're in. But I think the difference is, and I know we're probably going to touch on it. Look what's coming. Look what's falling. Look what's falling off.
Yeah.
We can get Green. Green turns into our. He doesn't have the destroyed knees. At the end of this 2-year deal, could be the next Cronwall and being the journeyman guy that falls on the 5-6 spot while these other young guys come in. So.
Yeah, you can't just, like I said before, you can't just throw 18 and 19-year-old defensemen out there. And yeah, you're going to see some brilliance, but you're also going to see a lot of inexperience and a lot of turnovers and a lot of stupid penalties and a lot of everything, all of that. So, like, this idea that you can throw, I don't know, 6 of the forwards are going to be young guys, and then 4 of the defensemen are going to be young guys. It's just unrealistic, and it's asinine to think that way. And ultimately, I thought, first of all, that they did a pretty good job in this free agency of not going way too far over. Like, I thought if they would have brought in Valtteri Filppula again, I would have been pretty pissed, because then now you're starting to maybe take a spot away from a guy like Rasmussen. But now on the other hand, a lot of people don't like to realize this, but I mean, if these kids are going to make the team, they're going to make the team, whether these guys are there or not. They're going to push for those spots. You can't just give these players spots on teams. That doesn't work. And you know what? That doesn't make them work for anything. I mean, you guys agree with that? You can't just give. Larkin is a prime example. That roster was pretty much full, and Larkin pushed his way onto that roster, left the University of Michigan, and made the team right away. That's the type of thing it's going to take. Maybe not as hard now, because the team's not as established, but it's going to be, it'll be much easier, but you still have to push. You still have to impress, and probably they're going to have to make some roster changes as well. And people still don't realize that there's still trades that could be a possibility too, regardless of what Ansar Khan says.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I don't think any player has been given a position just because he's younger than someone else. You don't look at these teams and say, oh, hey, look, you're going to come on because you're younger, and goodbye, Jágr. You know how long Jágr had a freaking job for, and no kid, just because he was younger, got put on a team that Jágr was on just because he was younger? No, Jágr was better than all those kids. It's the same thing with the Sedins. They could have said, goodbye, Sedins. We're going to put all these younger kids on. But no, they're better than the kids you're trying to put on, because the kids you're trying to put on haven't developed enough yet. And like these Facebook keyboard warriors oh my God, we got, what is Holland doing? Getting veterans. We need to play all the kids because we're going to suck anyways. Well, the thing is you have to play the kids with the veterans, suck anyways, but those veterans help those kids develop. Mm-hmm. Kids can't help other kids develop because they don't know what they're doing.
Nope. Anthony Sue's best season or partial season was with freaking Thomas Vanek. So
exactly. Yeah. So the Vanek thing I think is interesting. Thomas Vanek, yeah, we signed him for more money than we signed him for before because he put up numbers that we didn't think he was going to put up. He had such a shitty time playing in Minnesota, and we brought him in here, and he got his game back. He made himself worth more. So we signed him again. Exactly. So we signed him again for more. And I'm going to have to talk about it because this might be the only way this is going to get through some people's heads as to why we signed it. Henrik Zetterberg may not be back next year. Henrik Zetterberg, and there wouldn't be people reporting it if there wasn't a high possibility that he has played his last hockey game for the Detroit Red Wings.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yeah. So if Z is gone, Vanek can step in and put up the same, if not higher, point production than Zetterberg put up. Keep him in. He's younger than Zetterberg. Keep him in that role as, the lead veteran on the team to help the kids. Just like you said, with Cronwall dropping off next season, keep Mike Green on to help the kids because you're getting rid of Cronwall. You've got maybe 2 defensemen that are ready to play right now in Hicketts and Hronek. I'll tell you, if they keep to their word of not taking anyone's shit, the second Eriksson fucks up, you're going to the 7th D spot, and we're bringing up Hronek, or Hronek can make the team right now. Eriksson, you're going to the 7th D spot, and we're bringing up Joe Hicketts. Like, it's not that hard. We might have one more year where, okay, maybe Hicketts is in the minors for one more year, or Hronek gets a full year in Grand Rapids. But it's not like, oh, well, Mike Green's here for 2 years, so for 2 more years, no one's coming up. That's not how this works. And
there's injuries too. There's a lot of things that go into it. People don't realize this. Like you said, Facebook keyboard warriors. I believe that's how you phrased it. There's this notion on the Red Wing organization, like that we overgroom our prospects. We can't do that anymore.
That might be true like 10 years ago.
Yeah, but people continuously bring that up. It's like the Tigers bullpen, right? Dombrowski wasn't able to build a bullpen with the Tigers, so that follows him with the Red Sox. Built a decent bullpen with the Red Sox. It's the same thing. It's just like a notion that people don't let go of.
You know the name I got?
So stupid.
The name I got, I asked, who did Ken Holland leave to overripen in the AHL? You know the name I got? Thomas Kopecky.
Kopecky? What?
Thomas Kopecky was the last person they could tell me that Holland left in Grand Rapids.
Where's he at now?
He's probably overseas
somewhere.
Yeah.
He couldn't. Well. Yeah, so Thomas Kopecky, I could say, okay, maybe he was left in Grand Rapids a little long because I think he was in Grand Rapids for 5 seasons, but he was a 2nd-round draft pick. They're like, Kopecky, they left him in Grand Rapids. I'm like 10 years ago? Like, when did they do that? Like, they
I'll tell you what, the 2 guys that I can think of that came up, and they're just not the guys that we thought they were in the American Hockey League. Martin Ferk, I mean, he has a great shot, but he doesn't have much more than that. And he moved starting Detroit. And was another guy who had a great shot, but I mean that was it as well. And he was tiny on top of it all. So it's not like we have these great prospects in Grand Rapids. Some people overhype these players, and then they get to the National Hockey League, and you're expecting these great things from players that just aren't that great. Like Robbie Russo was another prime example of that. Everyone hyped him up, and then he finally got a chance. And I went to his first game. He was like a -5 in that game against Boston. They lost 7-1.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it.
What were you gonna say, Ryan?
I was gonna say let's talk about happy things, not losing to Boston.
Here's our happy thing. We signed backup goaltender Jonathan Bernier, and for those of you that don't think that's a good thing, you can suck it because Bernier maybe had one bad year, and
on a bad Toronto team.
On a bad Toronto team, the dude was 21-7. Like, don't complain about having Bernier as a backup. You've got Jimmy for one more year. Bernier can become a starter, and then you bring one of the kids up. We don't have any prospects. They're like, play one of the prospects. Yeah, and have them get lit up every freaking night.
Look how that went.
That's pointless.
So Philip Larson looks excellent. And when I watched the development camp game, Joran Van Pottelberg looked great, and so did Caden Fulcher. But none of them are ready to step up even in a backup role. They need at least 2 years in Grand Rapids. And how long did we sign Bernier for? 3 years.
And the other thing I was talking about Petrozzoli too. He's not ready yet, and he's got great upside still.
We have good goalies in the pipeline. They are not anywhere near ready. And Bernier would have been probably my second pickup behind Carter Hutton.
Yep.
And for the people that were saying bring back Mrazek,
please no.
Oh my God.
I'm surprised he got a contract, to be quite honest with you.
If he would have went to Philly and actually, not sucked his own asshole, I think it would have been on that bandwagon all the way to bring him back. But he did the exact same thing he did with us. I hate it because he showed so much. There's so many different flashes of brilliance while he was at Detroit, but then he'd go right back into his old habits of inconsistency. And why would you want that for a team that struggles enough on defense? You need your goalie to stand on his freaking head. Jimmy has done that his whole career. When he's been hurt, it's been obvious that that's when he sucks. But of course, he's hurt. But
Yeah.
bringing in Bernie on that 3-year deal, Jimmy's on the tail end of his. They're going to do like what we've talked about in past pods, a 1A, 1B, probably more or less.
Yep.
And with Bernie being, he's what, 29, right?
That or 31.
No, I'll tell you right now. I have it up right here. He's 29. Yeah.
And Jimmy's 35, correct?
34.
Either way. Yeah, 29 and a 34-year-old.
By the way, Jimmy looks really good, huh? Have you guys seen that picture?
He's got dad bod.
Does he have a sponsorship with Dunkin' Donuts?
No, it's Timmy's.
Is it Tim? I thought no. Dunkin's the USA sponsor now.
No, if you go into Timmy's wearing a Howard jersey, you get a double and some Timbits.
Jesus, I was surprised. Does he always look like that? I didn't think he did.
No.
I thought he was a dapper-looking fellow.
He's got dad bod now.
Yeah, I can't blame him. Right?
Yeah, well,
just wait.
I'll tell you what. I think that'll all be gone by training camp because he's a competitor.
No, I like the goalie situation they've got this year. I like what Bernier can bring. What Bernier's comments already about how he wants to come in and get this team back in the playoffs is what you want to see, especially from a goaltender. He knows what's in front of him. I don't think we're as bad as what the Leafs were a couple of years ago in regards to the defensive core.
Yeah.
But there's the competitive edge is already seemingly different this offseason with the moves they made, the draft they just had, and how things are looking coming into the new season. I feel way more comfortable, even though I think they're still not going to be that great. It's a more positive feeling, I guess you could say.
Yeah, they'll be a much more fun team to watch. I don't think they're going to be this worst team like everybody thinks. Like I was listening to NHL Network radio, and I don't remember who the guys were, but Steve Kouleas was one of them. Mm-hmm. And they do like 31 teams in 31 days or whatever, and the Red Wings were one of the teams, and they were just piling on how like they think Detroit's going to be even worse this year, and how Jack Hughes is going to be their guy, and how they don't have any prospects outside of Philip Zadina. It's like if you're going to cover that on like a national like stage, and people actually pay for Sirius XM radio, like, wouldn't you think you'd have something to back it up? Like, have someone that's a writer for The Athletic on or something? Like, because any Red Wings someone that covers the Red Wings, any Red Wings writer, anything would come on and say, stop right there. What about Philip Hronek? What about Michael Rasmussen? What about Dennis Cholowski? What about all these guys? I mean, like,
any of them.
Sorry, RV, any of those guys, JVP, I mean, obviously their names. Now we'll see what happens when they get to the higher levels, the NHL and the AHL and all that. But it's just asinine. And I've seen articles how the Red Wings are in for a dark age and everything. It's like, pump the brakes. I mean, the Colorado Avalanche looked like they were an absolute, dumpster fire. And, they made the playoffs last year. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
Colorado made one trade and they completely changed their entire freaking everything for that team.
Yep, absolutely.
Detroit now, granted, Detroit is not one trade away. They don't have a Nathan McKinnon or freaking damn it, who am I trying to think of? 92.
Landeskog.
They don't have that per se, but in comparison to years past and all those years of not having a high first round pick and lucking out on things, it's I feel way better.
All right. Yeah. So I think we have sufficiently recapped free agency. Basically, everyone who has a negative outlook on this, shut up. Just listen to what we just said and be happy. So we'll move on. And I said we do this, and we're probably going to do this pretty frequently since we've switched over to Grindline, is we're asking you guys for questions you have. And I think we got a few of them on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at GrindlinePod. But the first one I want to start off with is we were asked to respond to some blatant lies that Pat Caputo told on 97.1. He went on a little bit of a rant about our free agent period. And we're going to play you the clip right here, and then we're going to kind of give you some feedback on it.
All right, let me play it.
Yep.
All right.
We got to go a little fast through this.
There's a lot of progress being made. I was watching the development camp this week, all those different things. They have a lot of young prospects. And then when free agent signing period opens, the first thing they do is Ken Holland fall back into his old ways signing Mike Green to a contract that is really a bad contract. It's a bad value contract. Mike Green is now being paid among the top 40 defensemen in the NHL. That means he's being paid like a top pairing defenseman. At this stage of his career, he's somebody that should play in the fifth or sixth spot, even strength, and be a power play specialist. They have among the top 64 paid defensemen in the league now Jonathan Ericsson, Nicholas Cromwell, and Danny DeKeyser, and those guys are all fifth or sixth defensemen on really good teams if you're truthful about it. And on top of it, they throw a little bit of a cherry on the top by signing Thomas Vanek at 34 to a contract that's even more than what they signed him from before. This is classic Ken Holland, the things that he did in the past that got him into this problem. They've been making so much progress on their rebuild, doing the right thing, and then falling into this crap. It boxes them in on salary cap if they want to trade Athanasiou or Nyquist. It's just nonsensical when it comes down to these are players that are 33 and 34 years old. One of them getting a multi-year contract. It's just something I really have had trouble understanding in any way, shape, or form other than they just can't get out of this mode of, wow, we get into the A spot. Maybe we can play Tampa Bay and get a couple home dates. And, well, we'll lose, but, at least we made the playoffs. If you make the playoffs as part of your rebuild, hey, man, more power to you. But if you're doing it and doing things like this that are going to preclude you from doing it, it doesn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't make any sense. It's a bad thing, a real bad thing. And I hope the Red Wings just get out of this mode as fast as they can. And I find this to be profoundly disappointing.
All right. So I think I'll start with that because he told a few blatant lies there. The first lie that he told was that we are boxed in on salary cap if we want to trade someone like Athanasiou or Nyquist. So, one, when you trade someone, generally their cap comes off. So, if we trade Nyquist for a couple picks, how is that affecting our salary cap?
It doesn't.
Even if we take a player back, we've got about $13 million in cap right now.
Even if he retains salary, it wouldn't do anything.
Exactly. And if you're trading, say you trade Nyquist and Athanasiou to get a top defenseman, say you traded Nyquist and Athanasiou to get Falk. Okay, you're basically evening out salary there. So we're not in any way boxed in on salary cap. The other thing that I wanted to bring up that I wanted to get your guys' thing on, your guys' opinion, is he says Holland is back to his old ways. And the way I look at Holland's old ways is signing aging veterans to very long contracts for very high amounts of money.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that there. I think I see 3 short-term contracts, with the maximum being of a 3-year contract by Jonathan Bernier. By the way, we needed a backup goaltender and hopefully someone that could, kind of guide him into the future. So I don't really see a problem with any of those 3 contracts.
So my thing is, to your point, Greg, earlier about trading AA or Nyquist and or both. The biggest thing with 8A is we need to lock him up before he goes to arbitration, first of all, because that's going to be our deck of cards on what we can do this possible, but they can do this coming into the season. Because they're at a minor log jam if they want guys like Rasmussen and Zadina, but at the same time, those are their best probably chips to play with in regards to moving forward, clearing cap, because Nyquist falls off this year anyways. If they would re-sign him to a similar deal, I wouldn't be upset about it. But I don't long term, it's hard to see where he's going to fit because of the style of play we have coming up through Grand Rapids right now that are knocking on the door.
Yeah.
The Mike Green deal, I would have been a lot more pissed about it. But everyone that we're so excited about seeing in the NHL hasn't played an NHL game yet.
Exactly.
We got Filip Hronek and Dennis Cholowski, Vili Saaravi, all who looked fantastic in Grand Rapids, haven't stepped ice on a regular season game at Little Caesars Arena yet.
Hicketts is the only one.
Hicketts is the only one. Everyone loved him, and that's fantastic. But the other thing to look at too, Green gives you 2 years of stability and a mentorship. And I know he says that he should, what was the quote, roughly? He's a 5-6 spot at this point in his career. On this team, he's a 1-2. We don't have a true superstar on this defensive core that's going to step in. Cronwall's passed. His knees are dead. Erickson's a Detroit road cone. There's nothing there that provides what they need to really take the step. He led the team last year in points. No one else was really close. Cronwall was the
last
next
2 years. Last 2 years in points.
Exactly.
For a defenseman.
What has everyone else done? Teens, point wise? I don't have it pulled up in front of me. It's not good.
Yeah, we don't get much offense from our back end at all.
And you can't expect a guy like Roenick, who was a point-producing and offensive driving player in Grand Rapids, to immediately do that in Detroit. Even Hicketts, who had a great offensive output, I mean, he had, a +4 by many in Detroit news, or not Detroit news, but the media per se would think, he had a plus-minus of a positive. That's fantastic. But
he was only in 5 games.
Exactly. Jonathan Ericsson's plus-minus was near 0, so he had a great season too, right?
Yeah.
But
God.
They need production from the back end. Green does that. Outside of that, they don't have anything proven. That's why I like where they're at, because after this season, Cronwall retired. Nick Jensen's the last year. There's 2 spots immediately that you have an opportunity to open up, and then they have 2 more guys going into the next year that are about to fall off on their contract. So it drives me freaking insane that he brings up going back to the old ways, but he's just buying time, no pun intended, to allow contracts to fall off to bring these guys in that everyone's bitching about.
Can I just go real quick? Yeah. They have a fuck ton of cap space next year.
Yes.
Granted, depending on what happens here, with the Mantha deal and the Larkin deal that are both looming, the FNSU one possibly as well. But they have a fuck ton of cap space next summer, and apparently, according to I'm sorry, why am I forgetting the name? Craig Custance of The Athletic, they're making a big run, hopefully, at Erik Karlsson, or they're looking to make a big run at Erik Karlsson next summer. So, I mean, that's a good.
Oh,
start to get the.
Wait, Tyler, wait. You froze on. That's a good.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good move, and it can get the rebuild, sort of accelerated if they're able to bring him in, because they haven't had a number 1 defenseman since Nick Cronwall stopped, his knees gave out, and I mean, we really haven't had a number 1 since Lidstrom, but I mean, so.
No, and I guarantee you there will be a number of other teams that would have given Mike Green that same deal. The only reason he took it was because he wanted to stay here. So other teams would have been happy to pay Mike Green $5.3 million.
Let me toss one other thing out there that I see with a lot of Red Wings fans on Facebook and all that other stuff. Like, if you post, like, we should get Justin Falk, we should get Noah Hannafin, we should get Dougie Hamilton, we should get one of those players. Everyone says no. Everyone says no. Why? Why no? They're better than everybody we have. Everybody we have. Not only are they better than everybody that we have, they're also young, and they're a piece that you could actually keep moving forward. So if you were to get a Karlsson, why would he want to come here? Because, I mean, what do you think, we're going to suck forever? Everyone thought that about the Leafs. Look at them. They got John Tavares now.
Yeah. And I think the last
first pick.
Yeah. The last thing I want to point out that he said, which totally contradicts himself, is he says that Holland is in a make the playoffs mindset.
No, he's not.
He said on an interview on 97.1's morning show that they don't plan to make the playoffs. They just want to stay competitive. They want to have a chance to go in and win a game, because if you don't, then that ruins the development of the kids if they go in expecting to lose every night. They're not in a make the playoffs mindset. They know they're not going to make the playoffs. He said it himself on the morning show. Pat Caputo should listen to his own freaking radio station, because then he'd know what's going on.
That bothers me the most, I think, because it's been obvious since even last year. Holland wants to be competitive, but I think he's finally, and I think we can all praise this, that he has said that playoffs are likely out of the question. He's not expecting it. It's not the expectation from him and the management. But
Nope.
you keep guys like Green on and Vanek on because, hey, guess what? They're awesome offensive driving players. And what's that help you do? Score goals. Who's that support? Younger players like Anthony Ciu was when he played with Vanek a couple years ago. So if you get a guy like Rasmussen brand new to the lineup, Zadina brand new to the lineup, Hronek brand new to the lineup, playing with these types of players, they see how that works.
Yeah.
And that's how you get better.
Yeah. So we got another question from at Red Wings Vines. They want to know, what do we think is the best case scenario for the Wings going into the season, and where do we realistically see them finishing? So I think the best case scenario is you get 3 kids on the team. You get Rasmussen on the team. You get Zadina on the team. You get Hronek on the team. I still see them finishing in the bottom 5. But I see that development start of the kids, a leadership role start. I see maybe Z retiring and Larkin getting the C, or them going for a year without a C. But I think the best case scenario is 3 kids make the team. I think that's all that needs to make the team at this point. And that they've probably still finish in the bottom 5, which is fine because you get closer to another lottery pick.
Yep. And yeah, so I mean, that would be my best case scenario as well. And then, them finishing, bottom 5 in the NHL gives them a chance at the lottery, gives them a chance at Jack Hughes, who is a generational talent again. So you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel once you start to get a player like that. I think we've seen it now. I think we're sort of in a situation like Toronto was a few years ago, right? We're starting to tear it down, but we haven't torn it all the way down. So, Zadina is our Nylander, or Zadina is our Marner. Now we're just looking for our Matthews. Whether that be Jack Hughes or whether that be somebody, a few years down the line, or if that, emerges and Dylan Larkin is that guy, who knows? But the best case scenario, 3 kids on the team. Hopefully Bernier plays well when he does play. Hopefully, you can keep a lot of the guys healthy. If not, hopefully you could say goodbye to Z. Hopefully you could say goodbye to Eriksson at some point. So we've all been wishing that since 2009. So even before that.
Yeah.
No, I agree with your pick for your top 3 there, Greg. The biggest thing about Rasmussen and Zadina making it is there has to probably likely be movement of at least one forward, only because a lot of that's going to be dependent on Mantha, Larkin, and Anthony Ciu deals. If they go bridge or they go full time, but I think those 3 can make the most initial impact and really push more offense for this team that struggle to score goals. So that'd be my hope, and we'll just have to see. Honest, I don't know if they're going to be bottom 5. Those 3 come in and make the impact that we would expect. I can see them pushing at the bubble, but not making that extra step to really get to that point.
I think the other thing that we forgot about too is we want to see Larkin, Mantha, possibly Athanasiou take further steps in their development as well, and you can lump Bertuzzi in there as well.
The nice thing is, to go off that, is they also expect more of themselves. In particular, I think Mantha was the hardest on himself.
Oh yeah, that's why he wants a bridge deal.
Yep. So I'm excited to see what he brings this year, because he was pissed at himself, and he knows what he can bring, and it's what the organization was expecting. So he's be on the lookout this year.
Yeah.
You guys see Luke Witkowski making the opening night roster?
Nope. I don't see Martin Frk making the roster either. I think he starts in Grand Rapids.
Good.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the last question we're going to answer before we wrap up, which is going to be pretty soon here, is from Warm Chord Music on Twitter. It says, interesting answer by Holland when asked about moving Nyquist. He told 97.1, Gus is in the last year of his contract. Let's get to camp and see where we are. How do you take this? To me, it says he's the guy he's planning to move at the beginning of the year if Zadina looks ready. So the way I respond to this, and I'll just do it quickly, is I don't think he needs to move anyone to put Zadina in the lineup. He can sit a player, but I do think he tries to trade Nyquist, and I do think he tries to trade Athanasiou and one of our garbage defensemen like Jensen to maybe get a better defenseman.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think that's the best case scenario. But trading Nyquist, I mean, it's like, you're going to trade Nyquist, but you're not going to get a lot for him. I guess it's more to free up a roster spot, maybe get like, a lower pick. Unless you're packaging Athanasiu with Nyquist, in that case, you might be able to get your Justin Falk or your Dougie Hamilton or, someone like that.
Yeah. Ryan, we'll get your thoughts and then we'll wrap this up.
We kind of already touched on it, but I think it's more. I don't think it's necessarily a for sure thing that he's getting traded, but I think it's more of a challenge to Gus to step his shit up, especially in the absence of Tatar. So I don't think he's gonna. I don't think of all the guys mentioned, Nyquist is a prior season trade. He'd be a deadline chip, but at the same time, it's just going to be dependent on how he performs this year. I think that every chance he's gonna have every chance. He's still a top 6 guy on this team, not necessarily on a contender per se, but it's that one's tricky for me because I like Nyquist, what he can provide, but it's where is he going to fit in the long term of things? Because the thing we haven't really talked about, he's still young. He's under 30. And
promising.
He still can be if he's on the right line. That's been shown time and time again. So I don't think I've given up on him, but he could also be like a Tatar for us this coming season, where he can provide value in a trade, probably more than an Athanasiu right now.
When he came up, I thought he was going to be our version of Brad Marchand. Not the agitating part, but like the actual hockey part, like where he was going to score goals and he was going to, set a lot of people up. I thought he was going to be a first-line player for sure.
And he can be. I think it depends on the situation. I also don't think that our current defensive situation helps anyone because
absolutely not.
Yep. So I think that wraps it up for tonight, guys. I'm gonna let you take it out, Tyler.
Greg, you want to throw your Twitter handle out?
Yeah, you can follow me at Bringing the Wing on Twitter.
And Ryan, you?
At RDRyan33.
You can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91. You can follow the Grindline podcast on Twitter at GrindlinePod. We thank you for listening. Everybody have a good night and stay classy, Hockey Town. Hopefully this summer heat doesn't get to you too much.